How you doing, buddy?
This is Kong the king cobra. King cobras are the longest species of venomous snake in the world, but they aren't the longest species of cobra in the world. So how's that possible? Well, it's kind of a trick question, and it's a trick question because king cobras aren't actually cobras. True cobras are in the genus Naja, which are snakes like Indian cobras, monocled cobras, and forest cobras, which happen to be the largest species of true cobra, and they can grow up to 10 feet long. So if a king cobra isn't a cobra, what the heck is it? King cobras are in their own genus, which is called Ophiophagus. Ophio meaning snake, and phagus, which means eating or eater. So the king cobra's genus literally translates to snake eater, which is also why they are called king cobras. Whenever you hear king in a snake's name, it's kind of a shorthand tip to let you know that it is a snake-eating species. King cobras are pretty much immune to all the venoms of other snakes they may encounter, so they regularly make meals of other cobras, although they probably prefer easier meals like Asian rat snakes and pythons.
Alright, so I'm not gonna lie, I'm not a biologist or anything. The last time I did biology was in my GCSEs, but I learned a sick fact where basically, if you put the tip of your tongue onto the roof of your mouth here, and you basically use suction to kind of lay your tongue flat onto the roof of your mouth like this, it basically gives you the ability to shut your mouth. So yeah, basically, in a situation that you have no business in, I beg you use that ability.
Lake Tahoe used to have the clearest, bluest water in the US until one shrimp ruined it all. Specifically, this guy, Mysis shrimp. We stupidly introduced them in the 1960s to feed the trout. Instead, they ate all the organisms and naturally cleaned the lake. Combine that with human pollution and, well, now scientists are trawling for the shrimp and hoping the lack of human activity during the pandemic will help clear the lake.
We'll be handing out notes left and right, but let me show you how you actually should take notes.
So there's an art to taking notes, and I'm going to show you how so you're not just copying the textbook. This is what I did in all my STEM pre-med classes to get an A.
I'm going to take you through this process, give you an example, and fill in the rest.
Again, let's do this through an example. So you've listened to the PowerPoint in class, and you know what chapters it covers, so what do you do next? Let's break down the textbook because I know it can be really overwhelming. Wait, I need my beats. Now, if you've been on my account before, you know how important it is to read the textbook. Hopefully you'll fall in love with them one day. First thing you do is you take the PowerPoint and you pull out those key questions. You write it down on a piece of paper. You go to the beginning of the chapter and you write down those key questions as well. Every textbook has this, either at the front page or the end of the chapter. So what do you do next, Jackie?
You wrote down your questions, now we're on part 2.
See these two things? Just a pen and a paper? That's all you need for step 2. I swear the worst thing people can do is read the textbook and take extensive notes the first time they read it. How can you possibly dive into the information and get a big picture? So the first time you go through the chapter, you're only going to use a pen and paper. What are you going to use a pen and paper for, Jackie? 3 things. 1, write down the words you don't know and look them up. 2, the sections that make your head explode, because you're going to keep reading. Number 3, points that remind you about another topic or another class. An example is like if you're doing biochem, you might write down, oh, IUPAC, carbohydrates. Glycolysis, I might want to know the mechanisms from Orgo.
Okay, now we're on part 3. How do you actually take these notes?
Okay, this part's exciting. Let me read through the button. So now that you have your question sheet, you're ready to go. So usually the textbooks break it up by topic, or they'll be like 1.1, 1.2.
So this is where it gets funky. We're going to break it down like a song. So you got the main part, you got the chorus, you can improvise, and you got the bass. So now you think that I'm crazy. So let us walk through this example.
You're on 1.1, you're going to sit down and read that again. I'm not looking, you're going to write a 1-sentence summary. This should be quick now. Now we start with the main line, which is the question. Again, if you're just writing line by line, you're not actually putting it into the big picture. So let's say you're learning about fluid balance, osmotic, and hydrostatic pressure. You find the question from the PowerPoint or the key points from the textbook and write that down. Now you're going to pick the key picture in the textbook and build around that.
So this is an example of a diagram I found in this section.
So now you're at the course theme. So what are you actually dealing with? Well, you're looking at veins, capillaries, arteries. Write it down.
So now you go in and you fill in a little bit about the arteries and the veins. This is where study sheets become a little bit like a puzzle. For example, if you're looking at this graph with velocity of blood flow and comparing it to arteries and veins, it's important to know, well, what are they composed of in order for you to understand what's driving this mechanism? So we're going to come to the improvise at the end. Okay, now this is my favorite part. The why are you doing this? What's going on? If you're making a study sheet, it better have parts that are different from the textbook. I'm telling you right now. If you're just copying the textbook, then you're not really thinking through it. So now we get to the base, and this is the why. So you write down on a piece of paper, physics, chemistry, biochem, orgo. You figure out what parts of those classes integrate in what you're learning. And you'll be like, yeah, that's crazy, Jackie. What do you mean? You're going to do extra work? First of all, this is what puts it all together, and usually teachers mention this in class. Students are like, oh, that's not important. So let me write a bunch of examples so you see how this happens. So for this topic, physics is what comes to mind. Circuits in parallel, series, Bernoulli's law, understanding how this connection of fluid and physiology relates to what you're learning. That's what helps you understand. Let me give you some more examples. As you dive deeper and start to connect other topics, you see how the whole picture comes together. Another quick example is neurons. These are the physics equations you would relate to. In the textbook, they're usually referring to it. You just gotta pay attention. Last but not least, improvise out of fun.
Oh my god.
Still falling for you, still falling for you. And just like that, all I breathe, all I feel, you are all for me.
So you know how food companies will put anything on their labels for their products, even if it makes no sense, like this sea salt that is non-GMO, even though all salt is non-GMO because it's not an organism, so it has no genes that can be modified. I found something that I think is worse. This is a can of LaCroix. It says it's approved for the Whole30 diet. It's water. What diet does not let you have water? I'm concerned.